Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Back again for Heroes Jubilee number 40. This time going into normal battle 2. Again, rank 1. I really think it's going to be very difficult to get that one extra point to get to the 72.5. Not that big of a problem. It's literally 1 point. I don't feel too bad about it. This stage is also an AoE focused stage. This time you want to use a Dark Nuker against these spiders, and fun fact, these guys cannot take any damage at all. Like, they are paper mache in front of any Dark character, and it makes it a little difficult to actually set up a turn, even in 3 turns. 3 turns is the turn bonus, and sometimes you end up killing them in 2. Or you kill one of them, and then you can miss overkill. Very unfortunate. The field starts with 4 greens and 2 blues, so Isis or Exalted Champion Veldora can definitely work out here. But I mean, it's fairly simple, not nearly as bad as normal Battle 3, but we'll get to that. So again, disclaimers. Number 1 is that your results may vary. Please use this video as a guide, not an end-all, because my teams are different than yours and your units are different. You will have to make some substitutions here and there. So just look at what I'm doing and then plug and play some of the other characters that you have available that maybe I'm using that you don't have. Disclaimer number 2 is these are the units I use for protection gauge, and these are the units I use for skill point gain. You will again see them a lot throughout this Jubilee. And disclaimer number 3 is don't forget to go into your town and optimize your dark building to get the most out of your Dark Nuker. But with that said, let's jump in. Sorry, before we start, just want to make another small disclaimer. Sometimes I tell you the charms I use, sometimes I don't. Mostly for normal battle 1, I use the AoE damage charm, the 8%er, that is fully maxed out. And then for normal battle 2, I use the AoE charm, and then I also, for the very final clip, use the protection or the alt gauge on greens. So we're going to be looking at, let's see, where is it? Increase soul skills, secret skill gauge by 40%. That's for normal battle 2's final clip. Otherwise, we are pretty much running with the AoE damage charm, which is up here somewhere. Somewhere being the keyword in charm effect level. Thank you. AoE damage. Here we go. All allies, all target attack by 8%. That's what we're using for most of the time. And then for normal battle 3, we are using protection gauge on blues, essentially, because we're trying to stack. Also, in every single normal battle that I'm running, none of the units have attack gear on, except for the nuking character, because none of these fights are very tanky. I don't want to do much damage with anybody else except the nuker, who I want to nuke with. So under all of normal battle 1, 2, and 3, none of these frontline characters have attack gear on, just the nuking character. So there's disclaimer number 4, technically, and 5. Alright, the first team for normal battle 2 looks like this. Looks pretty familiar. New Year's Blessing. It's going to run pretty much the same way as we did for normal battle 1. Shion, Hinata to steal. We've got now Shinsha for the buff instead of Milim. We've got Vengeance Raphael for the defensive powers. And then we've got New Year's Rimuru again to the rainbow orbs. And then we've got Milim as our dark nuking character. And between her and Shinsha, we will do enough damage. So, again, it's going to run pretty much the same way, except instead of using Soe turn 1, we're going to use Raphael turn 1, because he will seal the attack, the crit, and the pierce on the spiders while giving you guaranteed guard. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll again only send 3 orbs, because that's all we need to do. We are running skill point units as underneath, just in case we need extra. And we're only going to send 2 and then 1, and we're going to leave one of the spiders healthy, because we need to send 3 orbs with Milim on that one, and I want it alive. So here, we're going to have 71 points, perfect. So we'll steal with Hinata, we'll bring Rimuru in, and then we'll convert with rainbows, boom. The reason why we're running skill point units, by the way, is because since Raphael's skill costs 10 points more, I want to make sure we have enough to use the steal and the rainbows. So 1, 2, or we're doing a 3-2-1 spread. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1. And you can see, like, if we had done any damage to that right spider, it probably would have died. So this is the best way I found to get around it. Everyone is still sealed, and so since Milim is 120 and she's got good gear, she only takes 1 damage anyways. But the more important thing is that we're not getting pierced more than anything else. So the dark attack, the Shinsha buff, and then the Shion buff comes in, and then we nuke. And it's pretty easy right there. So again, we have the AoE charm on. We're using that a lot this Jubilee. So it does increase our damage significantly. More so than like a dark attack charm. But we took 1 damage. There is a way to get that extra, 1 point off. You do have to kill 2 of the spiders on turn 2 after using Rewind, but I'm not going to worry about 1 point. So there we go. That's almost max score, if you really care about it. Let's move on. Alright, the next team also can do the 1.4 million damage cap. It's just that we're not bringing any defensive characters, so you're going to take damage here. So you're not going to get that -1 point. But you can still make Visions of Coleus Rimuru do damage cap, and actually quite a bit more than damage cap. So this time we've got Exalted Champion Velzard, because Rimuru is magic. We've again got Hinata to steal. We've got Christmas Shizu, once again making an appearance for her buff. We've got Rain as a cheap magic buffer, and then we've got Overlord Shizu as our big time kind of buffer. You could bring Space Violet instead, and she would replace both Shizu and Rain, and you could just bring somebody else. That's a small time buffer, totally reasonable. You could bring like Second Anniversary Shizu or Space Yuki and get some ult resistance down. I don't know if you'll hit cap with that, but the same thing applies here, is where you're still going to steal 3 orbs with Hinata, and then you just bring in Coleus Rimuru, who can convert all blue orbs to rainbow. And if you get a good hand of blues on turn 2, I mean, you're going to be looking pretty good, and you can just get his EX ult for free, essentially. So again, we've got 42 skill points, because I want to make sure that we can steal and convert pretty well. We'll send 3 orbs again, therefore making sure that we have 3 Hinata orbs, which we have 4 now, so great. And a lot of them are blues. Awesome. We can also use Rain's buff, right? She's got that extra 15% or 50% green gauge increase. We're actually going to need that. So here, we're going to apply the AoE debuff now, because it does last for 2 turns. We'll bring Rimuru in, and then we will convert everything. So I don't have enough to use his own convert to blues, but I do have enough to use the Rain buff, which will then enhance the greens, and then make it so I do get the EX ult for Rimuru. And now I just have to spread the damage out and not kill anybody. So again, a 3-2-1 spread. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now turn 3, Rain's buff is still at max power, the 40% up and the 20% down. So we're looking good there. Alright, cheeky counter. As long as it's not with Rimuru, it's fine. We're taking 1 damage across the board. So, I mean, even if you don't bring a defensive character, if they only ever do 1 damage to you, you can still get a very good defensive score, and while still doing cap with this team. So, Shizu buff, boom, and then we'll bring Hinata in. Well, we've also used the Rain buff. Shizu's going to give guaranteed crits to Coleus Rimuru, because he's on Shizu's will, so that's just extra damage right there. We've got Velzard giving us the element, plus the Drago, which is enhancing everything. And Rimuru does 650k. Way more than damage cap. And, I mean, if you play your cards right and you don't get pierced, you can get a fairly good, like, a even lower damage taken score while still doing max damage cap. So this is a very efficient team. While you do need Shizu to get this score, there are substitutions that you can use instead to help buff it up a little bit, and you don't have to do 2 million damage. You need to do 1.4 million, and I think we can do that with some extra units. Alright, next up is a magic-focused team with Wielder of Magic Milim. We've got double skill-fused Octagram Lumi to support. Actually, yeah, she's going to be in this clip, Lumi is the DPS character. We've got Coleus Violet for the magic buff. We've got Isis for the green buff and the turn 1 convert. We've got Dark Rimuru, who is skill fused, so his crit damage skill is only 40 points now. If he's not skill fused, you're still fine. The whole point is that he's giving dark crit and crit damage to Lumi. And then we again have Christmas Shizu, still here, 2 videos in, 4 clips in, still using her AoE debuff. So you kind of understand how this team is going to run. We are also using the skill point units, so we can use both Isis skills turn 1, the green buff, and the green convert. And then we'll leave Lumi up front, because she's giving us extra protection gauge for the first 3 turns. We're only here for 3 turns, so that's very good. We'll bring Shizu in. With this team, we have a lot of dark characters, and I don't really want to hit the spiders with everybody that's dark. So I do want to swap out, so we only have 1 or 2 at any given moment that are hitting the spiders, because again, they are not very tanky if you're hitting them with dark characters. Here, the RNG is how many Lumi orbs can you get. That's a big thing, is how many Lumi orbs can you get. I think you only need 2 here because of the green buff, but there were a lot of runs that went through that I only had 1, and it was really sad. But we're going to use a stack of each of Lumi's skills, so that's 20% alt and 10% AoE damage. We'll bring Isis in now. Boom. And then we'll use her orb change again. We got very lucky there, right? We didn't have to use Milim. We didn't have to give everybody guaranteed Pierce. And we're going to get a double protector now because of the green buff. That's probably not going to happen to you, and you'll probably have to use Milim turn 2. But the Pierce buff, I believe, lasts for multiple turns. And so the only thing that you're missing out on is those extra 40 points. But you also have Violet. So if your hand looks like a bunch of blues, and you can still get the alt for Lumi, then just make them blues and you get double Milim. If it's greens, you do that. And if it's oranges, well, then maybe you just kind of hold and use what you've got. But here we got pretty lucky. We didn't have to use it. Now we've got Milim active. We'll use the crit damage buff. We've used the space buff. And now we have just enough to use the debuff from Shizu. So we have a few things going on. We'll give ourselves 40 points again because we have it, and then we have exactly enough to either use a stack of the Lumi alt or the Lumi AoE. I chose the alt buff. You could choose the AoE buff. It doesn't matter. She does 160, so definitely not as good, but she's not an EX character. So there's a score right there. Let's do one more team. All right. This is the final team. We've kind of flipped things around a bit. Dark Lumi is no longer the DPS. We're making Rimuru the DPS now. We've got Exalted Champion Velzard, Dark Milim, Bride Shuna to steal the orbs. We've got Exalted Champion Veldora, who is going to take care of our turn 1 orb change because both him and Milim, and technically Rimuru, are on Exalted Champions. And as long as you have those orbs, he will convert them. So, and then turn 2, he has that 70% green buff, which is better than Isis by 20%. But you also notice because Veldora costs too much, we're not running the skill point units, we're running just the big 3 underneath for max protection gauge. Not a big deal. Lumi is still up front, giving us extra gauge turn 1, 2, and 3. Veldora will come in for Shuna, because she's stealing orbs for Rimuru anyway, so it's not a big deal. We'll use his convert right here, because him and Milim are Exalted Champion, they are changed, and then we'll go ahead and send these orbs. We do have 2 dark characters up front, so we're going to be very careful. We're just going to do a 3-3 spread on each spider, because again, yeah, they don't have a lot of HP, unfortunately. So, I forgot to mention, but I think we're using the AoE charm for everything here, for all the clips. Sorry, I keep forgetting to do that sometimes in the videos. People keep asking about it, and I keep forgetting. But here, we've got 3 orbs for Milim. Good. The thing is that if we were to steal with Shuna, we would actually just kill someone. We'd kill a lot of things. So we're going to use the Veldora buff now, 70%. We're actually using the orange gauge increase right here on Velzard. So the green or alt gauge increase. And then we're going to bring Rimuru in. And then we'll use the 2 stacks of Lumi, who is also going to give orbs 50% gauge increase. So between all those different things, we're going to get an alt for Rimuru off 3 orbs. We just need to not kill everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because it's at full health. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. No one has attack gear on. So there we are. Now we're ready to nuke, because we do have well, not EX, but we have an alt There's AoEs, AoEs. All right, cool. And now we have 130 points to spend, which we can definitely do something with that. So we'll bring Dark Milim in. She's skill fused, so she's going to give Rimuru an extra 25% attack as well as the ult buff. And then we can use another stack of the AoE buff with the crit, with the element buff from Velzard right here to help enhance a lot of those other buffs. And then Rimuru will nuke. And he does 245, so better than the last clip. Not as good as some of the other teams, but still pretty respectable for how old of a character he is. And if your Lumi isn't skill fused, then you'll just do a bit less. Sure, whatever. But it's certainly doable with older characters, and Veldora is free. So there we go. There are 4 teams to take on normal battle 2 of Heroes Jubilee 40. If you have any other teams that I didn't use that you found that worked, please put them in the comments. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.